Hey guys, welcome back to Analyzing Horror. My name's Lauren, and today we'll be talking about my most anticipated 2022 movie, The Black Phone. So based off a short story by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, the story is set in a northern Colorado suburb where Finney, a shy but clever 13-year-old boy, is abducted by a sadistic serial child killer known as the Grabber, and he finds himself trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming proves to be useless. When the disconnected phone on the wall begins to mysteriously ring, Finney realizes that he's able to hear the voices of the Grabber's previous victims, and they are all hell-bent to make sure that what happened to them does not end up happening to Finney. So like I said, this was my most anticipated movie of 2022, and I was just so excited for this one, and it absolutely lived up to my expectations, if not exceeded them. One of the many reasons I was so excited for this movie was the bone-chilling premise. Like, child abductions is a real-life horror, and frighteningly all too real in our society, so I just thought that was a perfect concept for a horror movie. I was also really intrigued by the fact that it wasn't just a true crime horror, but there was also a supernatural element to it, what with the phone calls, as well as Finney's sister Gwen having these premonition dreams about the abductions. And I was dying to see Ethan Hawke play this baddie. Like, he's an incredible actor, and I just knew he was gonna blow me away, and he absolutely did. So fair warning, I'm gonna be talking about the storyline and some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, make sure to pause, go see the movie, and then come back afterwards. All right, let's get into my thoughts on The Black Phone. I'd like to start off by talking about performances and some of my favorite characters. So I have to start off by talking about one of the main reasons that I was so excited for this movie, getting to see Ethan Hawke play the Grabber. And oh my god, was he incredible and so insanely creepy. I think he gave one of the most impressive villainous performances that I've ever seen in my life, in part because his face was covered by that devil mask the entire runtime, with the exception of two very small scenes. His incredible performance comes through with his intimidating body language and stature, and the way he delivered his lines. Like, he used this incredibly disturbing sing-songy voice, and he did these high-pitched giggles as well as these long, wheezy sighs. Like, it just fully made my skin crawl. You could also tell that Ethan put on some muscle and a little bit of weight for this role as well. So again, he looked really intimidating and formidable, and I just really love how he just went all in on this villain character, and he was incredible. I also really loved Mason Thames as Finney, as well as Madeline McGraw as Gwen. I thought they both did a fantastic job and gave great performances. The way they performed some emotional and stressful scenes were really impressive, and I just found that their performances made each of those scenes all the more immersive. Of course, Mason was by himself in the basement for a lot of these scenes, and I just thought he did a great job carrying that section of the movie. I also thought Madeline was great in every scene that she was in. She had some really funny moments, but her standout scene for me was the scene where Gwen was being belted by her father for punishment. Like, she was so incredibly raw in that scene, and I honestly had to fight back tears. Like, holy hell. She just really gave it her all, and I think as a whole, the child acting in this movie was incredible. Okay, let's move on to the storyline and some of my favorite scenes. First off, I really love how the movie opens with a seemingly innocent baseball game where Finney is playing against a rival team. We're immediately introduced to Finney as well as Gwen, and we're also introduced to one of the rival teammates who after the game is returning home, and then suddenly the Grabber's black van pulls in front of him, and then the screen goes black. And it's so distressing but incredibly effective, with the innocent baseball game turned to something really sinister. I also really love that opening credits scene where we get all of the missing persons posters as well as images of the Grabber's van, and I just really loved like the grittiness of all of the images as well. Speaking of the opening credits scene, I really loved the main title song. I thought it was really creepy how it started off with these small little musical notes and then just fully went into an unsettling score. I also really love the score as a whole. I really love when a horror movie score is able to really get under your skin and enhance the tension in each scene, and I just thought it was really well done. I also really loved that we got some time with Finney and Gwen as well as the rest of the young cast towards the beginning of the movie. I thought it quickly gets you even more invested in these characters than you already are at the beginning, and you really care for them, which makes the second half of the movie all the more impactful. I also thought it was interesting how the movie portrayed violence in the young lives of Finney and Gwen through bullying and their abusive father. It just really added that gritty and grim tone to the movie, even before Finney was abducted. I also really liked that it was quickly established that the Grabber has been terrorizing the suburb for quite some time now, as well as establishing early on that Gwen has these premonition dreams about these abductions, which becomes all the more important when her brother becomes the Grabber's next victim. So that whole abduction scene was really intense. Like, it was very fast, but incredibly violent. Like, the grabber sprays pepper spray in poor Finney's eyes and is using black balloons to disguise this chaos. So he shoves him into the black van, closes the door, and next thing we know, Finney is in the basement. And that first basement scene between the grabber and Finney was so tense and scary. You are just so terrified for Finney. And again, Ethan Hawke plays the grabber incredibly. Like, he is so creepy. And he just chills my blood every time he enters the room. There's this other basement scene where Finney is sleeping on this mattress. And at this point, the phone has rang a couple of times, but no one has spoken. So Finney is starting to just ignore the phone calls. So he's sleeping on the mattress and the phone rings. So he rolls around and just groggily says, "Stop it." And then out of nowhere, you hear the grabber's voice say, "Stop what?" He's been in the room the whole time while Finney was sleeping. So Finney shoots up, pushes himself back, and asks the grabber, "What are you doing in here?" And then we get one of the most disturbing lines in this entire movie. The grabber just goes, "I just wanted to look at you." That line just fully sucks the air out of my lungs because you immediately get the sense that he hasn't just been a child killer, if you get what I'm trying to say. And dread just fully washes over you after that line. My God. However, speaking of the phone, I really loved the way the movie approached the phone calls. I liked how you could hear the crackly voice of the previous victims over the phone, but you actually get to see them physically in the scene as well. And sometimes they're moving their lips along with the voice on the phone. Sometimes they're sitting or standing near Finney. I just really liked how they were both like on the phone, but also physically in the scene with him. And I really loved that they retained their personalities in some shape or form. And I really loved that they shared their stories with Finney while also giving him tips and advice on what they did while they were in the basement, how to escape, what they know, certain stuff like that. And I really loved every scene with all of the previous victims, but my favorite was the second to last one. Outside of the very last one, which was his good friend, so I thought that was really sweet. But this second to last one was so angry. I just really loved how he gave Finney some advice, and Finney said thank you. And then this previous victim was like, "For what?" And Finney was like, "For helping me." And then we get this really powerful and emotionally raw scene where the previous victim says, "This is not about you. F him!" And I frankly didn't do that scene justice because he screams it and then there's like crackling of the phone and there's shaking of the camera and it's just absolute chaos and just raw emotion. And I just found that scene so impactful. And I love how it not only reminded Finney, but the audience that this isn't just about Finney. This isn't just about the previous victims. This is about the grabber, and we have to take him down. In addition, in that chaotic scene that I just mentioned, the ghost also gets kind of sucked up into the ceiling, and I just thought that was a really cool effect. I also really loved how the movie included some jump scares with these previous victim ghosts. Like, there are 2 jump scares that scared the absolute hell out of me. Like, you know those jump scares that just make you kind of, ugh, like you got shocked? That happened to me twice. But I love how the movie's real fear was in the situation and the sheer dread and tension throughout. And I liked how it didn't rely on jump scares for it to be scary. Like, the situation alone was absolutely terrifying and the tension was incredibly palpable. I also loved all the scenes where Finney was using everything around him in the basement to try to escape. Like, he uses what's in this bathroom he has. He digs a hole in the floor. He creates a hole in the wall. He takes a grate off of a window and tries to escape that way. Like, he tries everything and he's such a fighter and his sheer will to live is so admirable. Also, those scenes where the grabber was just sitting in the kitchen with a belt in hand, waiting to play Naughty Boy, which is this little sadistic game he likes to play, where he unlocks the basement door, and if the victim tries to escape, he beats them to death with a belt. And again, I have to praise Ethan Hawke for his performance in both of these scenes where he's sitting and waiting to play Naughty Boy. One scene, he's completely shirtless, and in the second, he only has a shirt unbuttoned. And again, you can just see like his physical appearance is incredibly intimidating and formidable, and it's just incredibly unsettling. I also really love that super creepy devil's mask. I like that it was interchangeable and it was different in each scene. So at one point, the grabber is waiting to play Naughty Boy, and he actually ends up falling asleep in the chair. And then we get this scene where Finney is slowly sneaking around him and trying to escape the house. And oh my God, I think I was holding my breath throughout this entire scene. It was so incredibly tense. And Finney actually manages to escape the house, but the grabber wakes up just in time before Finney can wake up any of the neighbors. He tackles him and gets him back to the basement, and my God, do you get this sense of helplessness and dread for Finney. But God love him, the sweetheart still doesn't give up. And then we get that final day in the basement basement, and my god is the tension thick. I like how the last call was from Finney's good friend, and he hypes him up and encourages him to fight back. And he gives him this clever tip on how to use the phone as a weapon. And there's this great scene where Finney is practicing with the phone where he goes back and forward and back and swings, and his friend's behind him practicing with him. I just thought it was really sweet that it was his friend that was the last phone call and the most inspiring, and he gives him that tip with the phone. It was just really impactful. I also love how Finney booby-trapped the basement. So I mentioned earlier that he dug a hole in the floor as well as got a grate off of a window. Well, he put the grate in the hole and then a blanket over it, intending to trip up the grabber. Like, this whole scene of preparation had my heart racing for Finney. The anticipation of this final fight was so intense. And I actually haven't mentioned him until now, but Max, the grabber's coked out brother, has actually been staying with him the last couple of days. And he's actually been trying to solve the missing children's case, having no idea he's been living above an abducted kid right there at that very moment, and it's been his brother this entire time. And it's at this point where Finney is ready for battle that Max actually figures it out and opens the basement door. And Max is all like, holy shit, I knew he was hiding something from me down here, but I didn't know it was this. And he seems like he's about to help, but it's already too late. The grabber is behind him with an axe, and Max goes down with an axe to the head. And then this sadistic man turns to Finney and says, "Look what you made me do." And then we get that final battle between the grabber and Finney, and oh my god, is it incredibly intense and so scary. My heart was racing this entire scene. However, Finney's booby trap works, and the grabber falls into the hole and breaks his ankle, and Finney's able to get a couple of good shots in before besting him in the fight. But before taking him out, Finney puts the phone to the grabber's ears, and he's able to hear all of his previous victims before he dies. And I love that because that once again emphasizes that it's not just about Finney, it's not just about the victims, it's about taking out this horrible person. And I really love that scene where Finney walks in stunned triumph out of the house to his freedom. And what a satisfying and perfect ending that is. Also, I forgot to mention there was this little twist where the grabber actually owned the house that Finney was in and the house across the street. So the house across the street was where he kept the bodies, and then the one Finney was in was where he keeps the abducted children. And I actually didn't see that coming at all. I actually did a small audible "oh" when I watched it. I just thought it was clever. Lastly, I wanted to quickly touch on how much I loved the cinematography and the overall look of this movie. I really liked how some of the scenes, especially the dream sequences and all of the storytelling from the previous victims, had sort of a home video handheld camera quality. I just thought it was really unique and added a gritty quality to those scenes. And actually almost every scene had like this grainy quality to it. And I just really liked that because I felt like it added to like that violent grittiness that this story tells. And I just thought it really reflected this movie's tone as a whole, and I just thought it was really immersive. All right, those are my thoughts on The Black Phone. Like I said, it was my most anticipated movie of 2022, and it just makes me so happy that it was as amazing as I thought it was gonna be. I thought Ethan Hawke was absolutely incredible. I really loved how the premise blended true crime horror with supernatural horror, and the tension and fear was so palpable throughout the storyline, and it just completely blew me away. So what did you think about it? Did you have a favorite character or favorite scene? Also, what was or is your most anticipated movie of 2022? Let me know in the comments. Also, this is just a reminder that I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. So if you're interested in following me on those and you haven't already, the links are in my description box below. And make sure to like and subscribe so Black Phillip knows you'd like to live deliciously. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again very soon in the next video. Bye!